So our speaker this morning is none other than the Reverend Doug Craig. He is back in the house. We haven't seen him since the beginning of November. It's been a very long time, as he has been in his alter ego of Santa Claus over the Christmas season. So we're delighted to have him back. He is someone who has been a leader of the New Age movement for, can I say, almost 40 years now?
39 years today.
39 years today?
Second Sunday.
Wow. 39 years today. Holy smokes. Wow, that's awesome. And in addition to that, he guides tours, hiking tours in the Canadian Rockies. There's all different kinds of ways that you can connect with him. Please help me welcome Reverend Doug Craig.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We'll begin with a meditation. Please join me.
We are held in the hands of grace, forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection from a mother's warm embrace. We are held in the hands of grace. We are held in the hands of grace, forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection from a mother's warm embrace. We are held in the hands of grace.
As we join together in consciousness, we do so knowing that there is one eternal life before us. And that is God's life, and that is our life right here and right now. So as we come together, let us do so and go within to that secret place of the Most High. And just find ourselves calm, relaxed, peaceful, and poised. And just go deeper within. Let go of the day, what has preceded you, what's to come, and just be here. For the point of power is in the present moment. So as we go into a meditative state, I'm going to use an affirmative meditation. So I'm going to make an affirmation, and I invite you to silently make that same affirmation to yourself. And just take a few moments to reflect upon it and to make it part of who and what you are. I am calm. I am peaceful. I am poised. At all times. And in all situations. I know that my soul knows need to do to experience peace, prosperity, fulfillment, and happiness. I know each and every one of us already and now accepts these words as our truth, for they are the natural state of our being. And as we journey within and home, we move back into that natural state of who and what we are. And we bring it forward in a glorious way for this new and vibrant year. And we know that God is good and that God is great. And so are we. And so are you.
Forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection from a mother's warm embrace. We are held in the hands of grace. We are held in the hands of grace. Forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection from a mother's warm embrace. We are held in the hands of
Just about so we can all go now.
Yeah.
This is the third in a three-part series on the pillars of prosperity. And I had done the first two before Christmas. One focused on practicing gratitude, thanksgiving, and blessing. And the other had to deal with the law of circulation, which really is giving, receiving, and a big guy in there called tithing, which I talked about before. Now, one of the things, these are all important practices that we need to work with, and we need to work with them on a day-by-day basis. This is not just something, oh, well, it's Sunday, let's do it today. We need to work it on a day-to-day basis. And so one of the things that's happening here right now, I'm doing a commercial, this isn't the talk yet, so. Okay, is we have a 10-week prosperity program running here right now, and week one has already been completed, but there's still lots to go, and that was just the start. So if you haven't joined, please do. They'll tell you the details at the end, but it's a great opportunity to take what we talked about before and review it and use it in this class. Because, you know, sometimes if you're doing a program on your own, it's easy to get distracted and get off track, right? Yeah. So, anybody here not need any prosperity at all? Okay, so I'm in the right place. So the idea of doing the course is it actually gets you to practice what you're doing, and one of the key components in working that law and circulation control is tithing. And you get to do that there. So you get to stretch and try some new ideas and new experiences and see how you can go beyond your limit. And the tithing that is done financially with money, your time, and your talent. So that's what you give of yourself. Your treasure, your time, and talent, because you've got all of that to give. And so it's very important to start practicing what it is that we need to do. And most of us got an intellectual idea. We study prosperity, so we know what we need to do. So we just need to do it. And this course will really help you get into going on that. Okay? Now we're going to move into the talk. So today I want to talk about the daily practice and application of spiritual principles. And I want to start out by reading what Eric Butterworth says about prosperity. By the way, my 3 favorite books, I just found out in a conversation with my good friend Dr. Ken Gordon, who is the spiritual president of the Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide. And his and my 3 favorite books are the same. And the first on there is The Science of Mind by Dr. Ernest Holmes, and the second one is Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth. You need to get that book. If you don't have that, or if you do, I don't care how many you got, you need to work with that book. And the other one is The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. Spiritual Economics is one of the best books that you're ever going to come across. Okay? Eric Butterworth says, the word prosperity comes from the Latin root, which literally translates according to hope, or to go forward hopefully. Thus, it is not so much a condition in life as it is an attitude towards life. Be real clear, that's what it is. Prosperity is a way of living and thinking, not just money and things. Poverty is a way of living and thinking, not just a lack of money or things. So it's about consciousness. Money and things are part of it. But the idea of prosperity is much larger than that, and that'll impact the money and things that you get to play with. Okay? He also says prosperity is spiritual well-being. And you know, in that meditation I did, I talked about peace, prosperity, fulfillment, and happiness. And that's been a quest that I've been on actively for about 15, 16 years since it come to my awareness that that's what I really want. And the one thing that I've learned on this journey is you don't do one and then the other. Anybody try to do one thing, I'll work on peace first and then I'll work on it? Don't work like that. You work with all 4 of them at the same time because one enhances the other. They're not separate from each other. They're all in one. And as you work with that, it's incremental. I mean, today, it was 39 years ago today that I walked into the center for the first time, a broken man. And decimated by 17 years of crime and violence and drug addictions and the whole thing. And using this has created an absolutely wonderful experience of life that is only getting richer as I go along. And it's got nothing to do with money, because I don't have any, or hardly any. I don't have any assets. We own 2 old cars and an ownership in a resort. That's it. But man, am I ever rich. Are we ever rich? Because you get to experience what you got at a newer and deeper level. As Susan had mentioned, I just finished my 5th Santa season, and Mrs. Claus played a much bigger role with me this time, and we did a lot of appointments together. We did 23 different appointments. And I have this treatment, or this affirmative prayer I use when I come to speak here, or my classes, or counseling, or anything, even my Santa work. But this year, I took it to a different level. Something inspired me to take my spiritual work and our meditation before we go out on the job to do it. So I did the standard, and then we opened up, and embody the consciousness of all that Santa and Mrs. Claus was and is in the minds of the hearts of the children, parents, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I stop there because we're targeting about 1930 forward. If you want to do the other Santas, go right ahead. We're not into that part. Same thing, but we wanted to bring that in. And you see, whenever you do affirmative prayer and treatment and get your bloated nothingness out of the way, as Emerson says, that means ego. We're going to talk about that too. Then you go into the experience with faith and trust that whatever it is that you're going to say or do is the right thing for those people at that right time. So one of the experiences that we had was we did a family party for the Woods home. Some of you know Woods home. This was a particularly special group of people. They were all adoptive parents. They had all adopted kids between 3 and about 16. These kids all shared one thing in common. They were all fetal alcohol syndrome kids. And some of them were pretty rough, okay? And to be able to take what I've learned here and what we've learned here and what we teach here and actively apply it in that situation, and to be able to be versatile enough to change how our approach was, our mannerisms was, for whatever that child needed to make it a positive and lucrative experience for them. And we were very successful at it. They had a wonderful time. We got some good feedback at it. And it was very rewarding and very rich doing that. And then I had another little boy called George. And this was at a venue, and he was so much in love with Santa, he got his parents to bring him for lunch the next week. And he'd come up, and he was very sincere, and he was always around smiling and waving and coming up, oh, Santa, I love you. And here is a level of respect from a 6-year-old that is absolutely amazing, and was the opportunity, and he did this himself. And I'm doing a bunch of kids and getting ready to go. I got a high five because I'm getting ready to go high-fiving, and George says, Santa, I can't. Why, George? Well, I got my hands all messy from this play stuff that I was doing, and I'm going to run right down to the washroom and wash my hands. Will you wait for me? Of course I will, George. And he'd come back and he'd give me the high five and the grin on his face. Now, talk about respect, right? And then I had another experience that I was saying to a few people that touched me in a place I've never felt inside of me before, to that day. I just hadn't felt it like that. And because you see, when I'm working with children, I don't need any protection. I don't need any concern. I don't need any shield. You know, when we work with each other and adults, don't matter how much we like each other, we got a shield there just in case, right? Well, with children, I don't have to do that. I can be 100% vulnerable. So I'm there, and I got this 7-month-old little girl. And she was different than most that age. She was just bright, alert, and a big head smiling, and her parents put her on my lap, and the parents and grandparents and the photographer and Anna and everybody else was there, and she did everything perfect. They said, cheese, and the little girl smiled, and Santa smiled, and it was just so neat. And then she did something that did it to me. She turned around just like this with those big eyes, and she looked at me and smiled, and she put her arms out like this and leaned into me and gave me a hug. And then went back, and everybody just went, oh, did you see that? I go, yeah, I saw it, holy. Okay? So keep in mind, that's one of the gifts you get when you work on yourself. I can't tell you how it's going to come through. You probably won't be Santa. But it'll come. Somehow, somewhere, it does. Because there was the willingness to be there and to be vulnerable, and then the willingness to accept the gift. You see, folks, the one thing, if you're going to do this prosperity, you have to work on being willing to accept the gift. We're going to practice about a lot of the giving, but you got to be willing to accept it. I could not have got that had I not been accepting it. It probably wouldn't have happened, and even if she did it, I wouldn't have got it, right? Or I might have got something, but not what I got. And that's one of the keys. So, you know, I got some ideas here I was going to tell you about things to do, and you're going to get lots of them. But has anybody ever worked on prosperity and these things, and you're doing all the right things and you're not getting anywhere? You're stuck, and you're wondering, what the hell is going on? What am I doing wrong? I'm doing this, they said to do this, I'm doing that, and I'm not getting anywhere. And there's a real good answer for that, and that's what I want to talk about. It's not about what you're doing. That's not the problem with respect to moving forward. It's what you're doing that's stopping you. So I'm going to give you a lesson on that. Don't do this if you're working for prosperity. First thing, and I'm going to tell you one more Santa story because it goes with this. And this is one of the points. Buying into the statement that working with prosperity and things, it only matters when I'm meditating, praying, reading an inspirational book, attending a spiritual home, or walking in nature. Okay, that's the only time I need to work on it. I take time out every day to work on it. An hour in the morning, I'm going to work on it. Right? This is a big thing. I'm going to work on it for 5 hours a day. No, that's the problem. It's 24 hours a day. Well, that sounds like a lot of work. Well, you're doing it anyhow. Why not make it easier? So, one of the most powerful things, and I'll tell you how I use this, not word for word because I couldn't remember it, but I know what the context is. Eric Butterworth says, if you carefully search within yourself, you may come to the awareness that your most important asset is the conscious control of your own life. Nothing else can satisfy or fulfill unless you enjoy the freedom that comes from the control of your inner world of mind and emotions. So one of the things when you're doing these courses and practicing them, one has to begin to manage the inner world. Once you take that on, you're going to see that it isn't as easy as it sounds. Because all of a sudden you could find yourself off on some tangent like you wouldn't believe. Right? So one of the things about being Santa and the way we do it, it's not just, oh, hey, how old are you, what do you like? Yeah, good, there, you've been good, blah, blah. We don't do that. We interact, we talk, we work with the families, we work with the kids. I can get kids to do what Dad can't get them to do. I want you to sit on Santa's knee. Come on, no, kid doesn't want to do it. Will you sit beside me? Yeah, Dad sits there. Oh, we want to get a closer picture, family picture, everybody move. I asked the little boy, hey, would you sit on my knee so we can get the picture? No problem. No problem if Santa does it. If Dad wants it or Mom, forget it. Okay? So we get to do this. So, yeah, I'm Reverend Doug today, but I'm Reverend Doug in disguise as Santa. Because I get to use this. So I'm at St. doing a Magic of Christmas with the students up there. And I had this young Asian gal, about 20 years old, 19. There was something different about her, I could tell by her eyes. She had an understanding, maybe Buddhism or something like that. And she comes up to me and she said, oh, Santa, can you tell me, all I want is happiness. Can you tell me how I can find happiness? How'd you like that for a request for a Christmas present, eh? I says, no problem, dear. I said, you know, you're one that's in charge of your inner world of mind and emotions. You can control your thinking and your feelings, and you can work with that. And as you work with that and become more peaceful, happiness will reveal itself. So you see, dear, it's not something you have to find. It's already within you. You just have to remove your distortions. Right? That's all you got to do. peace, prosperity, and fulfillment, they're already there. It's just we have to remove distortions. We have to learn how to remain calm, centered, peaceful, and poised at all times and all situations. Because when we do that, no matter what's going around in the eye of the storm, that means we're walking in faith and trust. That the Spirit will give us what it is we need to do or say when we need to do it or say it at any given time. And by the way, some people say, well, I'd like it to give me what it is that I'm going to do before I do it. That's not how it works. We're on an as-need-to-know basis. I told a story about my experience in China. If I had known and been told to do what I did to diffuse that situation, I wouldn't have done it. Who'd do something silly like that? If you get told to do stuff, a lot of times you won't do it because it doesn't make sense. A lot of the stuff I did, and I've done because I've been walking that talk, I've done that did not make one bit of sense to me personally. And if it was my idea, I wouldn't have done it. Case closed. That's not how I think. However, being in that position, that's how I am. And that girl, she just looked at me and she just smiled and walked away because she got her Christmas present. So it's not one of these things that we're doing whenever we're doing a spiritual practice. It's something we got to be cognizant and aware of all the time as we're going through this journey. Oh, 39 years, you must be really good at it. No, I'm not really good at it. I'm doing better at it. Like on this side of the scale, the good side will tip quite readily, but it's still got a tip because there's all that other stuff that's there. Okay? So that's one of the things, is learning to manage that world. Another enemy of prosperity, and you could look this up in the book, but and look at the definitions and get the idea, but it's a really good one from Catholicism. The 7 deadly sins. So if you're practicing these, you got a problem. Greed, gluttony, lust, envy, sloth, wrath, and pride. Check those out on your calendar. Okay, I'll leave them for you. Just the 7 deadly sins is all you need. You can look them up because I know a lot of people just tune that one right out. Some of those words anyhow. Okay, and the next thing is the big 3. This is the other one, right? We don't want to do that. Okay? So, the doubt and the fear is 1 and 2. The 3 is worry. Anybody here worry? The problem with women, most women are cursed because women are taught a lot that if you don't worry about your children, you're not a good mother. Has anybody ever heard that? Yeah. What a crock of crap. Bluntly, isn't it, eh? Yeah, worrying is the worst thing that you can do. I got a little story here. I got a couple more points here. I'm probably going to go a minute or 2 over. There are only 2 things in life to worry about. Whether you're sick or whether you're well. If you're well, there's nothing to worry about. If you're sick, there's only 2 things to worry about, whether you get better or you get worse. If you get better, there's nothing to worry about. If you get worse, there's only 2 things to worry about, whether you're going to live or you die. If you live, there's nothing to worry about. And if you die, there's nothing to worry about. No, if you die, there's only 2 things to worry about, actually. Whether you go to heaven or whether you go to hell. If you go to heaven, there's nothing to worry about. And if you go to hell, you'll probably be too darn busy shaking hands with all your friends to have time to worry. Right? So there's really nothing to worry about, okay? So the 7 deadly sins, the continuance of the spiritual practice day to day, the big 3, and the if-onlys, buts, I should-haves, and I'm not ready yet. Has anybody ever used that comment? Yeah, the if-only, but I should have, or I'm not ready yet. You know how you know when you're ready? I always tell people in counseling, they say, oh, I don't think I'm ready. I said, what's happening? This. And what are you trying to do? That. I said, you're ready. How do you know? Well, it wouldn't be happening if you weren't ready. Hello. Well, I'd like to have this in place. No, that's not how it works. The sooner we can get it in our head that you don't get a preview of what's going on, you got to deal with it as you go along. And the point of power is always in the present moment. And so what we want to do is we want to try and work in the present moment. Yeah, we do our goal setting and all of that, review the past, but move forward. But we get trapped in our ego in time. Because our ego gets trapped in the future, worrying about it. Trapped in the past about how could they have done that to me, or whatever your past is. And we get robbed of the point of power, which is the present moment of what we can do today. I love what Eckhart Tolle says. He says, time is what the ego lives on. The stronger the ego, the more time takes over your life. Almost every thought you think is then concerned with past and future. And your sense of self depends on the past for your identity and the future for its fulfillment. And we forget about the beauty that we get today. You cannot have any of those experiences I had any other time than today. Okay? That's the only time we can do them. And so what we want to do is prepare ourselves to be able to receive these kind of experiences like Santa, and to be able to recognize them, and to be able to circulate them by giving more good out into life. Because that's that law of circulation and flow. So, when you run into trouble, I'll leave you with this, and you're having a problem, and over the years I have been doing this, I've been using this. I got this 1 year after I first went into the center. I received a book for Christmas called The Science of Mind by Dr. Ernest Holmes, and quickly found page 282 and 283, and this quote that I use all the time. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we don't know the truth. Oh, kick yourself for that one, right? When things look the worst, that is a supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of the truth. When things look the worst is the best time to work, the most satisfying. The person who can throw himself with complete abandon into that limitless sea of receptivity, having cut loose from all apparent moorings, is the one who will always receive the greatest reward. So we don't give over to the conditions, no matter how hard. Actually, I got to tell you, the worse they are, the easier it is to do this work. Right? Because we get desperate. There's nothing else we know what to do. Okay? So desperation is a good way. But I'm trying to do it differently now. I've done desperation a few times. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm trying to do it through inspiration. What's the difference? You'll always be inspired first. If you don't listen, it gets desperate. And the more you ignore it, the worse it gets, until you really get a good crap kicking. How do I know? So now I'm working at doing it a different way. So go forward knowing that it's not only what you need to do, it's also what you need to stop doing. And the richest rewards beyond your wild imaginations will be given to you. Why? Because you and I are worthy of the very best in life, and we lovingly accept this now. And so it is.
I surrender. trust and I know that as I surrender, I fall into the arms of love.
And so whether your eyes are closed or open and softly focused, I invite you to journey to your sacred inner garden, your own personal sacred sanctuary. Allowing your breath to take you there, whether step by step, whether you fly in and land. I allow myself to access the secret, sacred garden, my refuge. My refuge where I can be the calm in the midst of the storms around me. Where I can be held by loving kindness to self, compassion to self. Sacred courage and strength for self in the midst of all circumstances. And here, I allow myself to be held by my own sacred container when the circumstances of life have knocked me sideways. I find space in my world to allow what wants to be felt, undergirded by my true divine nature and all the powers that I cultivate as a human being, tapping into my spiritual truth that gives me ways to deal with situations that I never knew at one time in my life, but I'm learning now. This is a space of forgiveness, giving myself love when I have given anything else. Assisting myself in rising up when it's time to rise when I have fallen. Or to lay with myself, curled up in surrender, when I just need to be with my pain, my grief, my anger. And because I am cultivating this sacred space within me, and I practice it so that I have progress through my process, more and more I am able to meet life as the consciousness of love, sacred courage and compassion. I fall more and more in love with the reflection in the mirror. And as I fall more and more in love with me, I fall more and more in love with humanity. And I offer them the compassion, the love, the sacred support. And I notice how my breath can take me there. In any given moment, in the midst of something that occurs in my life, I can use my breath to bring me home. And when I'm out in the world, I can do this with my eyes open, engaged with the moment, because I have practiced it in the stillness, embodied it. And as a sovereign being with a consciousness, I have commanded it to undergird my life. I can feel it now. I can feel the resonance of this peace, love, compassion vibrating in my own Sacred Heart Center, vibrating out to enliven and vitalize my life. And I can feel how I'm connected down through the roots or the grounding apparatus that goes down into the ground, and I take up the nourishment that is my birthright. And as I sit in my own pillar of light, out of which my body is sculpted, I allow myself to be more awake, more aware, and more engaged in my journey as a spiritual being, having a human being adventure. And I see myself going about my week asking, how will I embody this, I wonder? I wonder one or two steps that I can do, one or two practices that I could easily put into my life to make this more and more a reality for me and the world I'm in service to. And as we sing, I surrender, I invite us all to feel what that truly means on the other side of Doug's talk and this meditation.
I surrender. I trust and I know that as I surrender, I fall into the arms of love. I surrender. I trust and I know that as I surrender, I fall into the arms of love. I surrender.
Coming back to consciousness.
I trust and I know.
Making these words your own.
As I surrender, I fall into the arms of love. I fall into the arms of love. I fall into the arms of love.
I invite you to take that energy into this offering song by Anthony Burbidge and